So we'll start with something very simple.
Mm-hmm.
What is your name and where are you from?
I am Pau. I am from a small village in the northern part of Catalonia in Spain.
Excellent. And what is your connection to tea?
It's through coffee, which is the most funny part. But I used to work as a coffee roaster for many years. And the first company of coffee I worked for, they also own a tea shop. That tea shop was quite interesting because it covered like both the low end and the very high end kind of teas. So you had like very, I don't know, sencha aromatized with strawberries and chocolate and stuff like that. But then they will go up all the way to vintage pours and super competition grade gyokuros and stuff like that. So you could try like a lot of different things. Yeah, I was mainly in the coffee part, but then sometimes you just cover shifts or they are in lunch break or something and they need help. Go there, and there was this lady, Naoko, she's Japanese. There was at least 4 other Japanese people in the company. So maybe that's why I ended up more on the Japanese side of the tea. Just like trying, like they will brew a matcha during lunch break, then they will brew cookie cha just for fun and just bring like a big pot to the coffee part. So there was like a lot of that. Yeah, and then we will get some visits from tea farmers sometimes as well. Yeah, pretty much. That's the initial touch point.
Was there like a sudden moment you realized you wanted to spend more time with tea than coffee, or was it a more gradual thing? Or
at the beginning it was very gradual, also because at some point I am kind of introverted. I don't really do like well in the how do you say this, customer forward, like on the counter. Basically, it gets me bored now very, very quick. So I was wanting to leave the company, and then they say like, okay, you can just leave. It's okay. But then like 2 days later, they came back and they say like, actually, we were talking about you, and we need someone for the back office to do the trainings, to do all the more like backside. Like you will still be on the front, but you will be like oscillating between the coffee shop, the roastery, the warehouse, training for wholesale, and all that kind of like mess. I was like, okay, let's try for 3 or 4 months, I think we said, and then if I don't like it, then I will leave the company. And we were super happy. My boss is such a nice guy. So he was like, if you want to leave and then you don't find anything, like you can just like come back. That's not a problem. He's a super nice guy. And then I started doing the coffee trainings. For wholesale customers, of course, they sometimes want tea. So I would go with my boss's wife. She's the one that runs all the tea department. So we will go both to do the trainings. So it's like two people, like 2 transportation tickets, like everything doubled. So they were like, okay, let's give you at least like the basics. I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. And then at some point there was Hayashi-san, I don't remember the name, Ryutaro, I think it was, from Kirishima. And he just came one day with one of our importers from Belgium. 2 Swedish guys that I don't know why they even show up, like out of the blue. They just show up. They were like, we can do like a small tasting with you, with the farmer. We're like going all over Europe presenting his teas, and we actually for many years sold his tea, and it just blew my mind. It was so tasty. And then 6-7 years later, I discovered it was Asatsuyu, which is my favorite cultivar. And I was like, okay, so it actually makes like a lot of sense. When I tried it again, I was like, this sounds like tastes very familiar. And it was from the same guy. Yeah. So that was like, it was very gradually picking. And then from that day with that guy, also like he shared like how he manages his farm and stuff. It just like went through the roof. And then I was more involved in tea, and at some point I was like, okay, I want to transfer from the coffee side to the tea section of the company. And my boss said, we invested too much on the coffee for you. So I was like, okay, then I will go to Japan. I was supposed to go to a tea agronomy school in Kyushu, but then 3 weeks after landing in Japan, COVID happened, so it was like change of plans. But that's the picking part. And then from there, it was just like a rabbit hole of just trying to learn as much as possible. So while I was living in Japan, I couldn't visit as many places as I wanted to, unfortunately. But I lived in Japan for almost 2 years. Yeah, like a year and 9 months, 10 months, something like that. And then I went back to Spain for a little bit, working coffee, moved to Sweden, working coffee. And then I went to the master course, and then I did the internship in tea as well. So
Did you choose to work in coffee when you went back from Japan to Spain and then to Sweden? Was it coffee because you had previous experience in that and it was more familiar, or?
Yes, I don't have a university degree. Study-wise, I can work as a car technician, but I've done my compulsory internship, so it's not like I am a car technician. Like in paper I am, but I don't remember most of it. So all my work experience has been only like coffee or 3D printing, few other stuff here and there, but nothing I could really work with. So I want to visit my old company. I was like, hello, I'm back. They were like, okay, do you want to work? I was like, actually, I met my girlfriend in Japan. So I was looking for jobs in Sweden. They were like, no, it's okay. You just keep looking for jobs. And when you find it, you just leave the company again. And
that's so nice.
That's okay. At that time, they were building. So what is very special about that company is like the roastery, the coffee shop, the tea shop, and the big warehouse were all in the city center, which you are not allowed to roast in the city center anymore. But it's such an old license. The company is like 104 years old.
So for them, they still count.
You can hold the license, but the warehouse was at the bottom, like subterranean level of a big building in very central part of Barcelona. And it was too small. It was just too uncomfortable for like deliveries of trucks and stuff like that. So they were trying to move out. So they were like at these initial stages of like, okay, how do we build a warehouse outside? They took over of another very old roastery that was closing down. So they were kind of transforming the other section. So that was work from another coworker, but I was like more like cleaning up like structure works in the coffee shop itself. A little bit of the training program, the QC program, just like thinning it out a little bit. Well, they were like, okay, we have work for like 3 or 4 months, like this specific thing, and people have their hands like quite full. I timed actually quite well. So then I worked from September to early January, but I think I ended up only working until mid-December. And then I just moved to Sweden and started working in coffee again in a completely different style, but like also like very tiny kind of place, but like specialty roasting. Yeah.
So you moved from Spain, Barcelona, to Sweden in the winter.
Oh yeah.
Bit of a shock.
Lovely. I loved it. I loved it. Like I don't know, it's like -6. It can go up to -15 in Gothenburg sometimes, -12. Like the road is literally ice. There is no road, it's just ice. I love it. As long as you walk through the snow, it's usually okay. The ice is the tricky part, but then the houses are so warm and it's beautiful scenery as well. So
recommend it.
Super worth it.
But when you moved to Sweden, did you already know that you wanted to eventually go into tea?
Yes. It was mostly on like seeing how could I start tea business or no, not necessarily a tea shop, but something like tea related or coffee and tea related. Because sometimes it's like you're either a coffee person or a tea person. But I am a person of both sides. So spring and summer in Sweden is wonderful. It's like constant 20 to 25 degrees. Super nice. And I think like after like such harsh winter, like people really like to be outdoors. So more like a cargo bike, takeaway coffee cart. Same idea, but with tea. And there they are very heavy on like electric bikes, electric cars. So you have like a massive battery that you could use to boil water or something. So there was this company who were trying to like, okay, I want to do this with the batteries of the bike. It will hold up for the bike and for 2 boilers. And they were like, yeah, probably yes, but we have actually never had this thing.
I have another tea question before we'll switch up a bit. What is your favorite tea? Where do you drink it? And who are you with?
Favorite tea? I don't think I have a favorite tea. I'm one of those persons that almost never eats the same dish at the restaurant that you like, you know, like oh, you always go at this restaurant at this time with this person and you order the same thing. I like to go through everything. So I don't know. I like black teas. I like green. I like senchas. I like kyokuros. I like everything. It depends on
I think that's fine.
the
I think
mood,
you can
I
say
guess. Yeah. What was the question again?
Where do you drink it and who are you with?
Mostly at home, at work, for obvious reasons. Or like with the traveling tea bag. If we are on the road or something like that, it's always easy to just like brew whenever. So I think for me, it's like I'm just looking for excuses to brew more than, oh, this is the place where I brew tea. It's like, oh, we have like 5 minutes. It's not enough to brew tea, but I want to brew tea, so I will just like brew something quick, dirty, pop everything back in the bag with all the wet leaf, and then when we stop another time, we're just going to make the second one, something like that.
All right, yeah.
It's usually with Hannah, like at home, because it's very nice. She's not super into tea. I don't think she has ever brewed tea for me. But it's like you just give her a cup and she will just like give you the most knife to the neck kind of review of the tea. Like she will like, nah, this is not good. Like he will be like, do you have something else? That happens sometimes. Sometimes you brew her the same tea in 3 different ways in that 3 different days. And one day we're like, oh, I love it. This wine's super nice. We're like, yeah, it's the same from last day. And last day maybe you brew it a little bit too much, and she was like, this is not nice. So it's super funny to know from like very straightforward opinion. So super funny. Sometimes she's just like very groggy in the morning, and she's like, just give me something with caffeine. And it's like, come on. We're like, okay, do you want matcha? We're like, doesn't matter. Just give me some. And then you just brew matcha. She was like, oh, actually, this is super nice. So
Does it keep you thinking about your brewing more when you're brewing it then?
I'm a terrible brewer.
Really?
I'm a terrible brewer. At least when I compare to other people that are like, oh no, but maybe if you brew it at 95, then you can extract more of like, I used to be that in coffee. And I think I went too down the rabbit hole of like weighting absolutely everything, measuring TDS of the extracted solids of the espresso to know like how much you actually infused the tea, calculating the pressure of the pump on the machine and stuff like that. And then at some point I was like, nah, I just like brew. If it's hot, it's hot. If it's cold, it's cold. And within reason, but I am a terrible brewer. Like in that sense, like I don't really pay any attention more than this looks like way too much tea. And like, yeah, this looks like it's going to destroy the teapot or will melt it. That's something I really want to focus again, because when we evaluate tea or something, I have the background and the training from coffee, but in tea is very different. And it's been really hard sometimes to remap my experience from coffee, like kind of like learn to forget and learn the new stuff. Like, it will put you a very good sencha and you will say like, this is caboose. They will look at you like no, of course it's a sencha. Like, I don't know, tastes like caboose. It tastes super nice. So yeah, that is very hard for me, I think. Yeah, or at least I'm like just like very conscious about it. You know what?
I don't know. I guess for me, I tend to think about it slightly differently, because I don't, maybe without even realizing, for me, one of the signs of a really good tea is one that you can brew almost anywhere and it tastes pretty good. And like, it's not, if you brew it too hot too long, it's not going to be terrible to drink. It's going to be very rich, but it's not going to be really super astringent or unpleasant for what I like. So, well, you've seen me brew. Like, I just throw it all together. Oh, feels right. Okay, I'll pour it now. But I wouldn't say that I'm a great brewer. If I think of like, who do I think are really, really good brewers, then Aki-san, his brewing is awesome. I drink tea brewed by him one time per year, and that's when we have staff meetings.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So he will brew the tea. Whenever I was in the tea fields with him, I would always brew the tea for him. So he brews the tea during staff meetings, and it's always super good. But the other best brewer is Matsu.
Oh.
Very different. But Matsu-san's teas are always quite a bit lighter and super sweet. And yeah, he brews really good tea as well.
From Matsu, he brewed a lot during the master course.
Yeah.
And I stole a few of his movements. Like putting the Kyushu vertical so it drips and then drip, instead of having it drip for like a minute.
Yeah.
And that I think that's something I stole from him. Yeah, his tea is super nice. But they like, it's very like gentle,
super gentle
kind of brewing.
Yeah,
it's very nice.
But so, what is your favorite tea? Your favorite tea is a tea which you haven't had before?
Probably.
Okay. Well, you're drinking it probably at home, but anywhere could be okay. Any excuse to brew tea.
Always have a Kyushu with you.
Always have a Kyushu. Be on your gravestone, Pau, he always had a Kyushu.
Yeah, it's true. Like I always have something. Like, even if it's like I cannot bring a Kyushu with me, I have a thermal flask.
Yeah.
That is with a filter.
So if you wanted to, you could brew in there.
Instead of bringing my usual water bottle,
yeah,
which I always drink hot water, as you know. I hate cold water. Terrible thing.
Yeah, not good.
I just grab the other thermal flask, fill it with the water. I usually drink water at temperature wise, and if I want to brew, I can just like flip it and then throw some tea, and we're good. So
okay, good. Okay, so you always have a tea brewing utensil with you, and you're usually with Hannah. And she's testing your brewing ability.
Oh yeah,
on a daily basis.
She's roasted me. Like,
good, excellent.
All the time.
Love to hear that. Good job, Hannah. Okay, very nice. Well, okay, thank you for that. Let's do a slightly different line of questioning. What is the book or books you've given most as a gift?
Oh.
And why? Or what are 1 to 3 books that have greatly influenced your life? You can take it either way.
One that I have given away a lot as presents, or like just take my copies and take them home, and I just, if you don't want to return them, like, please just give them to someone else, is like the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. It's massively thick books. It's like every book is like almost 2,000 pages, and it's going to be a series of 10. He only has written 4 of them. The first book is literally an introduction, and it's like 1,000 500 pages or like a massive brick of paper. And it's like super slow. And then the last 30 pages, it just goes to 120. And then it just like stops in a massive cliffhanger, and it's like, oh, and there you go. And then you start the second book, and it's super slow. And from the middle of the book until the end, it's just like action, like one thing after the other. Then the third book is the same thing, like super slow, ends in a massive cliffhanger, and then the fourth book is just like one thing after the other. It's very well written. It's like super like world building.
World building.
Yeah, like at a massive scale. Like he details like the buildings are built this way because the currents of the wind in this continent are always in east to south direction. So there is the stone side of the house and the wooden side of the house because they are facing different winds. Society, like how every region like is like extremely in detail, and then it's like also like a touch of fantasy and magic, but it's like very like strict rules. It's not like you can do like whatever you want with it. There's like a lot of human limits into that kind of magic as well. I think it's very nice. I have begun those books like, and maybe 3 books is like thick like this.
Wow.
That's it's like
20 centimeters.
Yeah, every book is like 8 centimeters thick.
Wow.
Almost like 10 centimeters thick.
You could really do some damage.
Yeah. Like it's a book that you cannot bring on the train to read if you're commuting. Like it's too heavy.
So it's a book to read at home.
Yeah, and the hardcover versions is like almost a kilo of paper.
Wow.
It's super heavy, but it is extremely nice. I have bought like the book one. I have bought it at least like 7 or 8 times.
Wow.
And just giving it away or read it, give it to someone else. Like, oh, this year I want to read it again. Bought it again, give it away again. That one.
That's super nice.
As for books, Stoic philosophy books are quite nice, I think. The meditations of Marco Aurelius are quite nice. Like, not like I understand the book or anything like that, but it shows you like how at the different levels of society the problems that one faces alone are basically the same, in more or less detail. That's quite nice. But also like more like East philosophy is also quite nice. I don't remember the names, but yeah, there is a few tea ceremony books that are not about the ceremony itself, but like the mental model behind it that are actually quite nice.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's more about like how to see like rituals as a form of habit, but habit as a form of like behavior, and it drips down everything into like, yeah, you just want to deal with something and you just you just make tea and it's like therapeutic in a way. And it's like, okay, I can see that. So that's a more of a fresh approach than just like a tea ceremony as a tea ceremony, and that's it.
That's quite a wide range of different things there.
Yeah, but I mean, there's the tea cultivar book, the rice cultivar book is also very nice. Like those are like nice, but in a different way.
Yeah. Would you say the Rice Cultivar book has greatly affected your life?
Yes.
Really?
I have never seen such a thin book have been so packed with information ever.
Wow.
It's literally A6 size.
Okay.
And it's like half a page is one cultivar. It's like packed with an image, all the years of development, a description, a little bit of tasting notes, why is it used for, all of this concentrated in like maybe like 12 lines of text.
Wow.
It's like extremely summarized, but it's like
all the details there.
All the details are there. Another one is very nice, like how to wrap 5 eggs.
What? How to wrap 5 eggs?
Yeah. It's traditional wrap. It's a photography book.
Okay.
It's just like how they will wrap eggs. So they will take like these very long bamboo leaves and they will weave a contraction out. So you could store 5 eggs one on top of the other and they will not break, but you will carry them together.
In Japan.
Yeah. It's like
a book about that.
Yeah, it's like how do they pack things in the old times? Like, so there is like paper wrapping things, lacquered wooden boxes, like the bento boxes, but like
really
the
cool.
old style. So it's just black and white photography of those things, like how they would make onigiris, like wrapped into the bamboo leaves, and how the fumanjus that we have eaten sometimes. How do they do that?
Is it instructional or is it just?
It's just photography, but it really shows you like, okay, so you can just have a piece of string and you can manage to tie 5 eggs and not break them, and you can just like carry them, like you not have to hold them on your hand, you can just like put them in your backpack or something.
That's so cool.
I like how resourceful we are, and sometimes like how stupid we are.
Yeah.
So like there is this like, you see that and it's like, how did someone came up with this super smart idea?
Yeah.
Like,
so let's jump straight back in. We're brewing some new tea as well. This also kind of, next question kind of links to some stuff that we've just experienced with one of the tea bowls we've brewed with, and stuff we talked about earlier as well. But what is a tea-related purchase of $100, pounds, euros, my equivalent in Japanese yen, that you've most enjoyed in the last 6 months or in recent memory?
I would say my tea-related / adjacent.
Okay.
It's these bamboo flower pots.
Yeah.
So we went to Takayama with my tea ceremony teacher and some of the students. And instead of doing a chasen workshop, we did like a hanaire, I think it's called. Hanaire bamboo bowl with the slotted rings and stuff like that.
Wow.
So they give us like this massive 40 centimeter long, I don't know, 10 to 12 centimeters wide bamboo. And they were like, yeah, just make a few holes in there and then you can just use it as a flower vase.
Wow.
That was a very nice workshop. So we went to Tango Tanimura's workshop. I don't remember, I think it's his uncle. He's also a bamboo craftsman. And he focuses more on the flower pot, flower base, like big bamboo stuff, more than the chasen thing.
Right.
So he was the one doing the workshop. It was very, very nice. It's kind of like tea ceremony related.
Yeah.
Not super related directly into tea, but now I have it like hanging in one of the doors at home. So sometimes it's empty, sometimes it has like some flowers peeking out from there.
That's nice.
It's a very nice thing. It looks like a flute almost.
Yeah.
But it's very cute. Yeah, that was nice. That was very nice.
That's nice. We haven't had an answer that's been an experience.
It was nice because I actually didn't know that we were going to do that. I knew that we were going to a chasen maker. So I was like, oh, we're going to
make chasen.
Chasen or chasakus or I don't know, whatever. Yeah. They handed over this massive piece of flower. We're like,
was your chasen that big?
That's a very big chasen. And they were like, no, it's for flower bases. And I'm like, okay. So that was actually very funny.
Sometimes those things are quite nice because you don't even ever think, you would never think to go and do that. So if it just happens that you end up doing something like that, it's quite nice because you would never have picked it for yourself, but you get to have that experience. Good answer. Okay. How has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure?
Well, I think like, I had many, but I think also my parents have always encouraged me to just make mistakes, like without telling me like, yeah, this is a bad idea. They were like, okay, try it. Then you just break something or something happened, and they were like, okay, now you know. kind of growing up. So I think like, what's the word in English? Dropping out.
Mm-hmm.
Dropping out of university 2 times. It has set me for this coffee path and then into the tea path. So I'm very grateful to have dropped from university 2 times. First from just like, I don't know, high school burnout. I think they are like okay, you need to study, you need to get into university, you need to do the entrance exams and all that kind of crazy thing. So you put a lot of effort, but then it's like, choose a career. You are like 17, 18-year-old. Like, you don't know what you. I'm 32 and I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. So who cares? But then is when I was like a technician for a while. Then I tried studying acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine kind of studies as well, massage therapy as well. What else? I went to Africa to work in a coffee farm. Then I ended up in the coffee part. While I was in the coffee, I did many things. So in that sense, like dropping out of university and not having a degree, it has allowed me to do this multi-spectrum learning, both in books or like going to, I don't know, meditation classes, studying acupuncture, like studying herbology, all this kind of stuff. So that's super cool. And now I'm in university again, so it's like going full circle, which is very funny. But I think it's like a failure, but like not so much. It's just like,
I think it kind of hits on exactly what the question is, though, right? A failure or apparent failure to set you up for later success.
I think so. Maybe not for success, but it has shown me that there is all the stuff than your professional career plans and your 9 to 5 job. So that's the most important part, I think.
Sounds like a lot of crazy adventures and life experience along the way.
Oh my god. My dad and my mom are like so tired of like, oh, now he's doing 3D printing, now he's studying to be a car technician, now he's doing this, now he's doing that. They're like, super cool, that I want to work with it. And then a year later I'm studying something else, or I'm studying 2 things at the same time, which has been a common recurring thing for me, I think. So
2 things at the same time.
Oh yeah. Like,
so at the moment you're of course doing tea, but what is your other thing at the moment? Or are you kind of cycling through a few different things? Japanese language.
Well, Japanese language learning.
Rice cultivars.
Rice cultivars. I'm learning a lot about sake lately, like through rice, but also through fermentation.
Mm-hmm.
So sake is this pin that kind of connects farming, fermentation, kind of like a lot of chemistry. So like learning about malts, learning about yeasts, learning how those two play and fight together. The rice, of course. Then sake, I don't really enjoy alcohol at all. Like, I'm from Spain, like this very wine heavy culture. I don't enjoy that kind of acidity or the alcohol bath taste, but sake is more on the sweet side usually. And that's a very dangerous thing, because then I just go through the rabbit hole and you start like learning about brewing, and then you end up learning about yeast strains and propagation and like, flower yeasts and stuff like that. So
were you learning about these yeasts and things when we were in Umegashima in March?
Yeah, because the lady used to work in work or study or something like that.
The Tokyo.
In the
I forget the name of it.
I think it's called Norai. I think the National Agriculture University, something. Yeah, I forgot the name. But yeah, she was from a different part of the university. They have a how do you say, a section that is only dedicated to sake brewing. And she was like very funny because she was like, no, the sake nerds are only focusing on sake nerdy stuff. And she did like a little bit more of a general stuff. So that was very nice too. Like, oh, I can talk about this with someone else. Like, it's like something that you don't expect to have a conversation about molds and just like nerd out about that. So that was very funny. That was very funny, actually.
What is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? Could be an investment of money, time, energy.
Education. Always
and every time.
Always. Like, it always pays back somehow. Long or short, it doesn't matter, but learn about, I don't know, Excel sheets. It will come in handy at some point, some day. But also learn about, I don't know, when I was a car technician, just learning basics of mechanics. It can just come in handy at any point when something happens. Just learning about massage therapy teaches you a lot about anatomy and like what to look for when you are not feeling well or stuff like that. So there's a lot of that.
Education.
Always education, yes. In whatever you can learn, you can always remix it into something else, and it will always bloom into something. So, yeah.
Education. Well, I think it's a very wise thing. And it always sounds like you're learning something. Like, over knowing you for a little over a year now, like, it always seems like Pau is like in the process of learning something new. That's always quite an exciting thing to hear as well. So you live what you say. Education. All the time, every time.
Yes.
We're going to switch stuff up a little bit here. How often are you drinking tea per day, week?
Oh boy.
What is your most regularly drunk tea?
I'm probably green because I have like a lot at home. I need to drink it, but not a specific. It's very hard for me to open a bag and finish it and then open another one. So I always have like 27 bags open and like, today we drink this, tomorrow we drink that. But anywhere between 1 and 7, 8 teas per day, probably. Like at least, I would say. Yeah.
How much do you think that is in like liters?
It's like around 1.5.
Okay.
Yeah. It's usually not like big pots. Right. It's like a lot of tea, but it's like very like small teapot situation, like the Senchado teapots.
Yeah.
I have half size. If I drink with Hannah, it's like full size, and then it's like a nice small to medium cup for both of us.
Yeah.
Rebrew 3-4 times, change tea. Like it's porcelain, so I just dunk it out, rinse it, repeat. So it's a lot of tea, but it's like actually not so much quantity. It just piles up over time, and then you just go to the toilet 17 times per day. But that's another thing.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that would be in the warnings, what to watch out for if you want to get into tea. So we had a really interesting matcha just now. Do you want to share a little bit about it?
What part?
What was the name again? I forgot the name.
Narino. Narino is registered cultivar by, I don't know how to pronounce it, Hori Shichimian, which is a tea shop in Uji.
Definitely Hori.
Hori is, yes. The other part is Shiichimi or...
Shiichimi.
I think so. I'm not so sure. Anyway, it's a tea farmer, tea shop situation in Uji. The farm goes quite back in history to the Ashikawa shogunate.
Okay.
That fielder lord said, like, the 7 most famous tea fields in Uji are these ones, and This one, Okunoyama, I think is the name of their field. Yeah, is one of those 7 or 6 fields, whatever the number is. The father of the current president or head farmer just selected out of a field of Zaire, so seed-grown tea, 2 plants, probably more. And then he kept very strict recordings because you need it to be able to register if you want. So they just keep track of the plants, propagated them, ran tests, growth tests, behavior of the plant. And now it's a registered cultivar. I believe from 2000, so it's relatively new cultivar. That gives you just protection of breeding rights if you want to sell it, which I don't think they want. It's extremely tasty and it's a private cultivar, so they can just grow it themselves. It's very interesting. I don't know growing condition wise how it goes, because that's a more in-depth conversation to have with the farmer. But chemically they analyzed it and it's has double the theanine of any other cultivar out there. So I guess that's not in the caffeine level or catechin level. It's just it's double theanine, because genetic lottery made it to be like that. Probably compared to Yabukita, maybe compared to others, is not that high, but interesting nonetheless. I really blow my mind at the beginning because it's what we were saying, it's more light in texture. I usually prefer more something more thick, but even with that more medium texture, it still has very clear tones, and I don't know. It's very rewarding tea to drink. I think it's very interesting, and you can only get it from one farm in the entirety of Japan, which the farmer is very proud of, which makes sense.
One farmer in the world.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
To have a tea that is a cultivar that you can only get from one place. It's pretty cool. I think also brewing it the way that I drank it, it meant that pouring it from the bowl into a smaller cup, the foam congregated at the top. So it was super thick foam, slightly thinner texture of the tea itself, but then a richness in the flavor profile as well. So it was a really cool sandwich of things that was really tasty. And the aroma was pointed out that it was a little bit a milky foam hot milk aroma, which was really cool.
Yeah, that was very good.
100%. I want to go back and I want to go to the tea shop and check it out because it sounds super cool. So it's just in Uji, and it's quite close to the center, so it's easy to get to.
It's super easy to get to.
I think how you say is Hori Chichime.
Okay.
Chichime, because is the company name or company. Chichime. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should ask a Japanese speaker.
Yes.
Okay, let's do another question. What advice would you give somebody who's just getting into tea but is unsure where to find good information about tea and how to approach understanding what tea options are available? So a beginner just getting into tea.
I think we have the expectation sometimes that the more that you pay for tea, the better it will be. And it's usually not the case. It also depends on how you brew it and stuff like that. So just to carve your own path, find what you like, and that takes shooting in the dark for a little bit until you find something that you really like. But also don't get swayed by all these tea nerds out there telling you how to do stuff. Just teach freedom. So do whatever you want. Of course, try things that other people say and just break them up into something that you like. But I think just understanding the basics very well, what is temperature, not how temperature affect, what is temperature, what is water, what is open leaf or like powder or what actually how they play together. At a more chemical level, it can just like give you the reason why other people do stuff, and then you can learn way more easy. If you say like, I brew it like this because this person say so, you are not knowing what you're doing. But if you know that, I don't know, that's a little bit more nerdy, but like this water has more minerals of this one, it will tend to result into this thing, and this mineral will tend to result that way. I think it gives you a more space to reason what your cards on the deck are that day. And like, I know that it's a green tea and I have this water, and then you can just like forget about everything that you know technical wise and just like enjoy making tea. And also just not to drink tea alone, I would say. Like, just like, it's okay if the other person doesn't like the tea or they like the tea and you don't, but teas can be a tool. It doesn't necessarily need to be just to drink. And sometimes you either tend to the more social tea person or more like the, I don't want to say connoisseur, but like
Aficionado.
tea head
Yeah.
kind of situation where it's like very obscure terms and speech sometimes that is not very approachable. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. Just learn about learn about as many people as you can, but then just forget about everything that they say. Just do whatever you want and just find your own path in between reason, in a way. Yeah.
Good advice. Some solid advice. Okay, let's spin it up again. We'll do a non-tea question.
Oh.
And this is one of my favorite questions.
Oh boy.
What is an unusual habit or strange thing that you enjoy?
Learning about cultivars and malts and yeasts.
Oh,
unusual thing that I do. I don't know. Unusual. I mean, for me, and I guess it's tied to the education part, is to put myself into uncomfortable situations. I'm more on the introverted side, but sometimes I try to just get out and just be uncomfortable just to be able to learn from it. But it can also be of like, I don't know, attending a seminar about something I have zero idea of, just for the sake of learning and just be that person that is completely lost in there and like be open about it, and like just like you can get like a lot of benefit from it if you find the right people. No, I think that just like always look for something I would not want to do and just do it anyway, just because otherwise I will just stay home and just like be a reclusive monk at some point.
Hermit, drinking lots of tea.
Exactly. So
fair enough. Okay, I have another question. So this is one that I and other people would like to have your thoughts on. What are some of the big differences you see in the culture between coffee culture and tea culture? You have quite a unique position compared to a lot of the people that I and other tea people know. That you've first been in coffee for a long time before moving to tea. So you know that side of things very well. You know the tea world quite well. And I'm super interested to know, like, what are the contrasts between the two?
I think the tea, for some reason or another, it's been always tied more into this meditation yoga crowd. That's one side that is not in coffee usually. Like, of course, there is people like that too, but it tends to be more like beer and coffee people. They do like a lot of stuff together usually. Very nerdy. I would even say like a little bit on the elitist side of things. sometimes, or most of the times. It's way more hipster characters. Yeah, that kind of things.
On the coffee side, coffee and beer, or
Coffee as well.
So-
Beer too, but like there is like a lot of synergy between. There's a coffee beers as well.
Yeah.
But usually that kind of crowd gets like, you can see it in both coffee and beer. They are kind of like the craft beer people, and the specialty coffee people are kind of like the same kind of vibe most of the time. Tea is this more like meditation, yoga, tea as a tool for self-exploration kind of group of people. I think starting to get a little bit more mixed with all the boom of matcha, like matcha for takeaway. Like there is a lot of that as well that you can see. At a more industry level, I think we look for the same things, but roasting is an extra step that is not in tea at the last, just before the consumer. So usually for tea, you would, I don't know if it's hojicha or roasted oolong or whatever. Maybe the farmer will do it, or the tea shop in Taiwan will do it. But it's not necessarily done in the city where it will be consumed in Europe. While coffee, you ship the thing there, you roast it, and then you serve it. But the last step of roasting is always done closer geographically to the consumer. And that is the expression of the roast master into the coffee to be able to add it. While if you are the owner of a tea shop, you don't have that ability. Like, of course, you can select teas that you like more or less, but it's not like you can just put a stroke on that painting and say like, oh, this is why I did it. Unless you build a hojicha roastery in Barcelona now or something like that, I guess.
In a basement in the center of the city.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because of that, there is like a lot of like, not in the bad sense, but I don't know a better word in English, like ego characters in that. Of like, yeah, this is how I decided to roast it. This is how I decided that it should taste. This is how I decided that I want to serve it. That doesn't happen in tea as much, except when you get into like brewing people. Like they will tell, I know you have to brew it like this because whatever the reason. Happens less in tea, happens a little bit more in coffee, perhaps. I think it's gonna change. There was a lot more of that at the beginning, like all these new coffee roasteries being the underdogs. They wanted to like differentiate themselves. But I think it's calming down, I would say. So it's getting a little bit more like when you go to a wine shop and there is like a very good sommelier, it's usually not like showcasing its tools. It just gives you, guidance. And that didn't happen in coffee before I have the sensation. It was more like, yeah, this is my product. If you like it, well. If not, just get out of my shop.
Ooh.
While in wine shops, it's more like, okay, what are you looking for? Like, what are you going to eat it with? Who are you going to be with? Like, what is your budget? What like? Or do you have any preferences? It's more like this high-skilled technical person provides you guidance instead of just like providing you a product.
Do you think it's the market maturing? Do you think it's like the market's maturing?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like 10 years ago, it was a very different place. And then there was an explosion of roasters. There was a lot of these, we are helping coffee farmers and specialty coffee and stuff, and the volumes which makes sense when you're starting, but the volumes that you can make doesn't really make an impact for the farmer unless you just keep coming back year by year by year by year. But most of these places, 1 or 2 years into the business, they just have to close because they have like a very narrow spectrum of what coffee should taste like, how they want to serve it, how people are allowed to drink it, how like it was like, no, coffee needs to be always light roasted, it needs to taste like a lemon, it needs to be served without sugar, not even with milk, it cannot be served in takeaway cups. I don't have sweets in the shop because I just want people to focus on the coffee. So you are like giving yourself less tools to survive as a business. So the ones that are surviving now are the smart ones that are either have to reconsider how they're approaching their business and their approach, or like they saw coffee as a way to connect with people and just like providing a drink that can serve as that tool, which is more like what tea is like. So in that sense, I think they are getting kind of to the same place in a way. But it has required, like, in my experience in Barcelona city at least, like a 10-year trip of like a lot of people coming in, a lot of people coming out, a lot of people moving from one company to the other, trying things. And now you can see like their philosophy at the beginning and the philosophy 6-7 years later is like much more of the same, when before it was like, oh no, you are the industry and I am the specialty, and that's like blurring. Of course there's a lot about that as well, but yeah.
How do you feel about matcha and the matcha industry at the moment then?
Terrible.
Because if we think about like the production and consumption, then there's an awful lot being consumed in lattes, in baked goods, and also there is incredibly very high grade matcha, like the stuff that we just drank beforehand that you kindly gifted, you know, and also lots of other awesome farmers all over Japan produce really, really high grade ceremonial matcha that you just get to enjoy with water, and equally that's drunk abroad outside of Japan too. But that sounds like more balanced compared to what you've just described with how a lot of the specialty coffee shops started. This is how we do things, my way or the highway. Whereas, do you see similar things with matcha?
With matcha, I think the problem is that people are not willing to pay more than they pay for a cafe latte, for example. Which makes sense. Like, you are in the mornings maybe just going to spend certain amount of money in a drink. So if you like coffee and tea, and both drinks are the same price, you have the ability to choose. But if the tea drink costs you like double than the coffee drink, for whatever the reason, then you are probably going to spend more on the coffee drink. And that creates a situation where like matcha is expensive product. You have to ship it, you have to get it. It usually comes by plane, which is very inefficient. I mean, it's very efficient because it's very quick, but it's extremely expensive to ship by plane. People don't really understand the amount of labor behind it. Where with the specialty coffee roasters, with this 10-year trip, through education or through whatever, they have educated the customers a little bit more. So that's why they are able to charge you more for a product. If that extra cost drips down all the way to the farmer, that's another debate. But I don't think it's happening with matcha. It's like we have the expectation of a latte drink should cost ish this amount. Why, if I switch it to tea, which is usually a product that we see as more cheap than specialty coffee, because there is no mentality of specialty tea. There's this specialty coffee movement, but there is not a specialty tea movement, or at least not at base consumer level, I think. It's more like people that are in the industry or like are super nerdy about tea that But even so, I've never used that term into a casual conversation with tea people in a way. So that already sets like kind of a price expectation, value expectation, consumer expectation for matcha. That is very bad because then it's like a race to the bottom price wise, because the coffee shop needs their margins, which makes sense. But the farmers also need their margins to be able to survive. Otherwise, you will just, at some point, you will run out of farmers to buy from. If you go to the other spectrum, you just have like the very high end stuff. So there is this middle ground farmers, I would say, that they could do amazing products, but they are the lost farmers in a way. Like, for whatever the reason, they don't have the visibility of competition grade farmers, but they don't get the visibility in terms of like, yeah, their matcha is very cheap, so we can ship it to Europe with all the markup added to it and still have a product that is convenient for coffee shops. So this is where our attention should be, in my opinion. Because if you support that kind of farmers, those are the usual ones that they are with less tools. They are creating very good products. So if you provide them with tools and stability, both in economy or like some coffee roasteries did this, and I think it's a very good model of like, I'm going to buy whatever you produce for 3 years at this price, which is, I don't know, double of your normal price. Just focus on making better tea during these 3 years. And then in 3 years, we will just see what happens. If something happens in the second year that there is like whatever, like an outbreak of a pest or something, we are going to still buy your tea at the same price that if it was like excellent tea. And I think that gives the farmer the mental space and the economical space to level up in a way. So we are moving mid I don't know what to say this, but like mid-ranking farmers into high grade stuff. And that's not happening. Like, people keep buying from competition grade farmers more and more, and from like lower your costs as much as possible kind of cooperatives and farms. But there is all this section in the middle where there is like a lot of opportunities that is like completely getting lost in a way.
It must be quite a toll on the shop to take on the financial responsibility of buying all that tea for 3 years regardless.
No, it is. But at the same time, like, that's why a lot of these newer specialty roasters, they couldn't do this, so
they closed
because they buy one bag from a farmer per year. So they want to support that farmer, but one bag is out of, I don't know, 1,000 bags. It's a trip in the bucket. So there is not a lot of people that can do that, but the people that could, maybe they should consider like invest in the long-term future of the matcha as a product instead of like keeping the short-term benefit, I think. Because those kind of farmers are going the ones that they are, especially in Japan, I think, like, business relationships takes a little bit more time to grow, and like, okay, yeah, we are actually as a farmer, like, it takes more time than in other industries for the farmer to say like, yeah, I'm willing to sell to you. It's not like this person wants to buy from me, of course they can buy. It's like, no, I'm going to think if I want to buy to you. It takes like a little bit more. I think because of that, they want to know like, who are you? What are you doing? What are you going to do with my product? So if you are willing to take such a commitment and intention, I think that for the farmer really shows, and that creates a very strong bond, and they are just going to be your lifetime partners in a way. That's when some of these like sister companies relationships exist between Europe and tea farms in Japan sometimes. Like, there is this guy in Germany that imports like a lot of matcha and green tea, and there was this farm in Kagoshima, quite big one, well, medium maybe at that time. And they had such a strong relationship that they just decided to kind of fuse the two companies together. So that only happens when you take this kind of commitments. And I think the matcha market is still not there. And it takes like a lot of effort, money, time. Also, of course, not everyone can do it. But in coffee is working for certain farms, certain businesses with certain volumes. It can be as simple as like not just buying product, but like, hey, do you need a new harvesting machine? Like, we can just pay for you. Like, we are still going to buy you product, but like, do you need something that would make your life easier to make better tea very easily? That is not being done. I don't know how that will land into the farmer's mind either, but we have for leaf tea, maybe there is like a very wide spectrum of prices and stuff. But for matcha, I only see like either like latte grade, like okay, how much cheap can you get without losing too much quality, or just like, no, it's like from this famous farmer, it has won 5 awards year by year by year by year. Well, we only buy from these farmers. Like, this is very dangerous, because that farmer in 10 years, when he just decides to retire or whatever, then who do you have to buy from? Like, no one. So, yeah.
Long-term investment in farmers. There's also like a lot of the concerns over like pesticide usage and fertilizers and the sense of security farmers feel. Like, if you're working with an international partner, then there's always the concern, well, if this doesn't work out, I have to be able to sell my tea elsewhere. And if you are providing for a certain market because you happen to have this good connection, you might want to sell to the same market, but how easy is it to find another?
Yeah, well, that's what we say in Spain. Like, I think I have told you before. Like, it's better to stick with the crazy old man that you already knew than to meet the young superstar that you have never met, right? Kind of situation. But that's where I think like helping them out and making them understand that you also don't know how this is going to go, but like, we are going to stick with you. Like, it can be as easy as like, some farmers don't have a website, they don't even know how to export to Europe. Like, hey, we don't know either. We know the importing side, but we can figure out the exporting side for you, and we can just like they're like, we can actually help you to
support each other,
make it work. That kind of like, okay,
settles things down a bit.
First, it might be like a little bit like Ayashi, no? But yeah, I don't know. I see that as a very powerful tool of like supporting the farming families, because at the end of the day, it's like, we are also dealing with a product that the cost of living in Japan is way higher than in other countries. Like, they also have to think about like their families, which makes a lot of sense. So if you support that, I think you will get a lot back. But it's not easy to be in a position to be able to do that here. But, yeah, that's still very unstructured, but it's something I've been thinking a lot this past year. See a lot of like very good matcha out there, and you see like, okay, why don't we get this in other countries? Like, is it a cost thing? Is it people just buying always from the same suppliers that can supply volume? Because at the end, that's also something that happens. Like, if you are switching suppliers or origins, that is not in coffee. You can change origin or farm every couple months, and people understand like, oh no, now it's the season for harvest in Ethiopia, now it's the season for Kenyans, and now it's the season for Colombian coffee. But in tea they say like, okay, why do you have more? For like, yeah, because the farmer is extremely tiny and only produces 10 kilos per year. Like, what do you want me to do? There is not that mental model yet, I think, especially for matcha. For sencha, they might understand it. Like, okay, you don't have the sencha from this guy, but do you have the hojicha from this guy? Yes. But for matcha, like matcha is matcha. That is solved through, again, education.
Do you think like this is going to show my ignorance of coffee, but do you think it's because when you're looking at tea, the flavor profiles of teas from the same farmer are so wildly different in comparison to coffee? Like, yes, you can have very different flavor profiles of coffee, but like unroasted tea versus roasted tea could be a higher contrast compared to coffees from the same farmer, like in terms of like flavor category.
Even the same lot of coffee,
yeah,
it will taste very different in between batches. Like, you can be very consistent, but at the end of the day, like, it's a living product. Does wine taste the same year by year? No. Why should we have the expectation that coffee should taste the same year by year? So sometimes we are human, and you just forget that you're roasting coffee. You are on your phone, and then you just have a very dark roast, and you have to, air quotes, throw 60 kilos of coffee or make something out of it. And then you have like special blend, whatever, that happens. So that's why roasting profiles is such a big topic. But yeah, this is the debate of like live roasted coffee debate. And like it's like, okay, like, but you cannot know the flavor of the coffee without roasting it first. And by definition, that is altering the flavor of the bean itself. So like, how do you know? Like you can do like 3 light roasts with different curves and end up in very different results. And then you say like, oh, I think that I like more the most here, this one. Or no, I think the most representative of the origin is this one. But that's like a mental subjectiveness of the flavor that you want to look for. It's very complex.
So really, it's going to be different every single time you roast it.
Yeah, like good farmers will have consistency between batches, of course.
Yeah.
But then the next year the coffee will be different.
Yeah.
And that's why you buy from the same farm, but maybe you will be buying different lots from different days or different processes. The farmer also tries to do their best to improve, so they might not have the same recipes every year.
So it's my ignorance.
It's farming. Farming is
such variety in everything and so many variables to try and balance. That's a tricky thing. So, in the last 5 years, what is a new belief, behavior, or habit, one of those, which has most improved your life?
Oh, there is 2. One is the going back to the stoicism books. Like, we always suffer more in our mind than what is actually happening. Like, you are expecting something to happen, and your brain is like just like going like bananas, like thinking about all these crazy possibilities, and then it's like most of the time it's just like, it's okay. That's one that it has like helped me a lot with anxiety and stuff, to just like, it's probably going to be okay, and if it's not, it's not up to me to decide that. So that really helps me. And the other one is quite recent, I would say, like in this last year, is like a person should be able to hold 2 conflicting opinions at the same time. And so like, it's not like you have to make a decision about how do you feel about something and just stick with it. You can have actually 2 very contradictory beliefs in the same topic, and you should be able to be okay with it as well. Like for the matcha, for example, like you should be able to understand why the current topics are and disagree with them, but agree with what is going on. at the same time, if that makes sense, to be able to push through it in a way. And that goes in many topics, and that I think everyone as human should be able to do that, because that solves like a lot of conflicts of like, you think A, I think B, but I also think A, and you should be able to like not give me shit about it because I have two different opinions about something. Like, I don't know, make a decision. Like, I don't want to make a decision. Like, I understand your point of view. I don't agree. I think this one is better, but I can understand what you're saying. So that has been, I don't know where I heard it from. It was from a podcast actually. Someone said it, and it immediately clicked, and it made like, it's something that has stuck with me for a long time, I think. And you start to see it in different places, like, oh, okay, yeah, I can have these two opinions about the same topic and not feel like I have to make a decision about how I feel about something. Like, at some point I will feel like this, at some point I will feel like that, and people will be confused and angry because like, oh, you cannot make up your mind. Or, well, yeah. It's difficult to explain, I think, for me in English.
But I think it's difficult for me to, I can kind of see what you're getting at, but it's difficult for me to imagine myself being able to hold two opposing opinions and agree with both at the same time. For me, in my mind, that's just acceptance of the fact you can have difference in opinion about one thing. Like, you're okay with it being any of these options. Like, I'm okay with it being this, and this. Perhaps there's one that's a negative, like, oh, I don't agree with it up until this point. But then, like, there's a spectrum of, like, what's okay. And it just falls under there, in my mind. Like, but totally opposing, I don't know whether I could do that.
I mean, for certain things, I don't agree, of course. Like, there's certain topics in society or life that is like, okay, is it black or white?
Like dark roast coffee?
Dark roast coffee can be good. Like, that's the thing. Like, one thing is like to dark roast something. The other one is to burn something.
Right.
It's two very different things. Same color, different things. But like, to hold two conflicting opinions, it will tear you down like internally a lot. But I think that's very healthy, because it's like, okay, why do I feel this thing and this thing? And it really allows you to make arguments for both sides. And if you are very strongly against something, but you can really understand what your opposing side is thinking, is when you can make the most, I don't want to say damaging arguments against them, but like
convincing.
Yeah, like, right? You understand really what they are talking about, so you can argue with them at a very deep level, and that's usually not what happens. So having these two conflicting opinions inside of you, it will confuse you, it will make you very anxious at some times, feel you very weird, but it makes you get like a very deep understanding of what you're talking about.
I think for me, I think I understand what you're trying to like convey to me, and I think I approach it in a slightly different way, maybe in a slightly more egotistical way, where I think I'm right, so I need to understand the other person's opinion to be able to pick the holes in it. And along the way, there are definitely times where I've gone, oh, yeah, I'm wrong.
No, but you don't want to be wrong.
No,
right?
No.
Like
I don't want to be wrong, but maybe I try and understand their side of it for the wrong reasoning. The right reasoning is to have a healthy understanding of both sides of the argument, even if you think you're going to be right and you are in your head right afterwards. You want to have a healthy understanding of both sides of the argument. I think more often than not for me, maybe I'm trying to understand the other side to help educate them as to why they're thinking not the
Yeah.
same way as me is perhaps not the right way to think about it.
No.
You know, when we're talking about something. And for me, a classic is, or something that was a natural progression for me from one side of the argument to the other, would have been from being a bit of a tea snob, like self-declared, I was a tea snob, all the way to the other side where I'm like, I think as long as you're enjoying the tea, it's okay. It's more about sitting down and enjoying a cup of tea with somebody, or appreciating the work that went into producing that tea, rather than having the fanciest tea that was like picked under moonlight on a special day one time per year after the tea bush has grown to a certain age. Like, instead of it being that, rather tasting the tea, appreciating the tea for what it is, and the moment you're having with the people you're drinking it with. Like, for me, I'm more that side of things. It's more relaxed.
For me, it happened this in coffee.
Yeah.
From being an absolute coffee snob to just like brew coffee, whatever comes out, like, yeah, just go for it. But then when people start to debate me like, oh, but you're brewing it wrong, I'm like, no, I know that magnesium does this, and then I know that I didn't spray the beans to remove static electricity from the beans when you ground. Like, they're like, then if you know about it, why you don't know? Because I don't want to. That's the thing. But I know what you're talking about. I know, but I just choose not to do it, and I am okay with it. While a lot of people are like, it just like makes them very mad, in a way, which is very funny.
But maybe that's just a part of the path, right?
Yeah, I think
because the knowledge gives you freedom of choice.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know why you decided why you didn't want to spray them, because you thought it wasn't worth it. But if you didn't already know about spraying the beans, and you didn't know about all the other things that go into the making of a delicious cup of coffee, like, you can pick and choose the things you want to keep and things you don't want to keep, right? But you have the freedom of choice because you know the knowledge. And perhaps you wouldn't have got there if you hadn't gone down the snob, in inverted commas, route to try and learn all of those things.
I really like what you say, like freedom. How do you say it? Freedom.
Knowledge is the freedom of choice.
Yeah. Because it's like, that's something that my tea ceremony teacher also like encourages a lot. You need to learn exactly how things are done until the last millimeter of perfection. So then you can just like forget about it and just break everything down and do whatever you want. But I think like in the coffee situation at least, and even in the tea brewing part, it puts you on this very self-limiting path. Of like, no, you need to do this, then you need to do this in this way, and then do this in this way, and then do this in this way. And at some point, it's like, I just want to have a cup of tea and sit down and not spend 25 minutes dealing with particle dispersion curves and stuff like that. You know, it's like just like, let me be free again and like just enjoy tea as I did 10 years ago. So that's where am I right now, I guess, like going backwards in a way to just, I have learned a lot of things to the point where I can just choose to ignore them and just like let the dynamics of the day just give a twist to the tea or the coffee or the meal of the day or whatever.
Do you feel, because you're doing tea ceremony classes at the moment, right? Do you feel yourself being limited in some way, or going like the constrictions of the coffee brewing that you felt? Do you feel those within tea ceremony, or is it a different purpose so you don't feel those constrictions?
That will tie up to many things that we have talked, but yes, I feel very limited, but I choose to put myself into that uncomfortable situation of like, especially I think for tea ceremony, they see it as a ritual. Well, my teacher told us like one time, it's like an act of intentionality. Like it's very structured because there is a lot of intention in it, and you need to learn what the intentions are, not what the movements are, what the intentions are. Like, why do you fold the fukusa like this? Oh, because your sword would be in the way, the kimono would be on the way. Like you are training in a t-shirt. Like, of course you don't have this problem, but like there is a reason behind everything. There is an intention behind everything. And sometimes it's like, no, but they asked me to do it in this movement. Like, yeah, but like why? So I choose to be in that situation to, when I do other things in my life, to be more intentional about it in a way. So it's a way to learn from limiting yourself a lot. It gives you a different perspective that when you have like a wide spectrum of choices, you will not be like overwhelmed by the choice range. You will say like, oh, okay, you can have a very clear mind of like, no, I want this and I am going to do it like this because of these reasons, instead of just like being lost in a gradient of choices, I think. So yeah, I forgot the question.
No, it was like between the coffee side and the limitations placed upon you through like how you're meant to brew coffee, but then moving that to the tea world, like you were doing tea ceremony, so you feeling constricted by that, but you're choosing your constrictions, and I think maybe that frees you in another part of your life.
Exactly.
So you've compartmentalized you've recognized the value of having the rules placed upon you in a certain circumstance, but it's kept to that area, so that then you're free to enjoy other parts as you feel fit, which I think is really healthy way to do it.
I think so. Selective limitation can like open a lot of like paths. Also, there is these things of like, you can see it in objects sometimes. Like I am very into stationary items, like fountain pens, for example. There is a company called Lamy. They do a model that looks extremely modern. It's a design that is like from 70 years ago. And then you see like, how is it possible that such an old design can look so modern? And in tea ceremony, I also learned like, or at least through my teacher, timeless tradition is always contemporary. So learning those old things can teach you things that they will just like be carried over time, like unchanged, because they are like so not pure, but like natural, that you cannot just remove anything else from it. It has like
it's the fundamental.
It's such a fundamental thing that you cannot add or remove without just actually getting rid of the thing itself. So that's something that is carried through limitations as well, I think. Like you make this crazy design and then you start taking this is screw out and this is slope out and then this thing out, and then you end up in the most example is a pencil. A pencil is so functional, but if you remove something from it, it just breaks down. Like if you don't have the core, it's not a pencil. If you remove the boot casing from it, it's not a pencil anymore, because you cannot use the graphite on its own. But you could add things to it, but it would not be the same thing. You could remove things and the thing itself will cease to exist. So you can apply that into tea ceremony, you can apply that into whatever, a book, you can apply that into your brewing, you can apply that into your preference of like how to send emails, I don't know. Like
I think this also can be, we could point to the Rice Cultivar book. It sounds like it's picks on this quite a lot.
It's so selective on what is giving to you that you could add more stuff, but it would add a 1% more of something that you actually don't need probably most of the time. But if you remove something, then you will be lacking a very key piece of information. So that's a very good example actually.
It just popped into my mind from what you were saying before.
Aw.
Okay, well, I mean, taking all of that into account, from what we've just said about saddle and limitations and how that set you up for having different parts of your life and enjoying tea brewing in different ways, where in coffee perhaps it was a little bit too much like that at the beginning, and that caused you to kind of force yourself into a different direction. All this experience, do you have any do you have some recommendations you could give to some new tea people about books, any resources, things that they could use for learning about tea?
About tea itself. I mean, there is many resources out there. It's just like it depends on what you are interested into. Like, are you interested in tea as a technical product? Then of course there is like these books that tell you about tea manufacturing and like processing techniques and chemically thing, like what's the book? A nerd's view of tea or something.
Is this one Italian?
It's an American lady. I think she's a doctor.
Okay, no, I don't.
And she has made like this book that is like super chemically nerdy on like the trichomes of the leaf have these oils, and these oils react with these and this chemical compound, and this is what you smell when you see the trichomes out there, like stuff like that. So that's like very nerdy in that sense, like chemistry wise. Then you have like these books. I think it's from the Urasenke school, something like that. But it's not like the temais itself, like how do you make the tea. It's more like their philosophical point of view on tea and stuff. It touches on tea a little bit here and there, but it's like they talk about 5-element theory from China, yin-yang theory, like how the tea room is divided in yin areas and yang areas, which is actually something that we study in my school as well. Like where the placement of certain stuff happens is because there is like yang lines, yin lines, and stuff like that. So it's like you can take that part as well if you are into that for tea. And then there is the entire range in between. So the tea cultivar book, there is tea Iamoto books that they might have written long time ago on like their point of view about tea or tea culture. I think the ones from Christine Surak are very nice if you are more into the anthropology side of things. Like making tea, making Japan is a very good one as well. It's like how it shaped national identity through tea, which is very nice. If you just want to learn about the history of tea as not a product, but as an economical product, A Bowl for a Coin, I think is my favorite book from the last year about tea. Probably is tea looked from an economical perspective, as like when it came as a present from Buddhist monks from China to Japan, all that kind of stuff. Then it developed the gift economy that is, as you know, super present in Japan. You always bring gifts when you go somewhere or you meet someone for the first time or something like that. How those gifts turned eventually into a taxable thing, and how from the taxes it became like an agricultural product that was not grown on the site of rice paddies, but like as a thing that you would grow to make taxes for the government, all the way into like, no, we are actually selling the leaves you now so you can brew it at home. Like, I think it's like a very fascinating. It's kind of short, super easy to read. It's actually free. It's a free online book out there that you can get.
A Bowl for a Coin.
Yeah, that is true. That's the problem. One, I think, is A Bowl for a Coin. poetry in the 18th century. This is by Sao's biography. And then a ball for a coin, and the title stops there. And that's the other one. This last one is free online as a PDF, I think, by the author itself. You can buy the paper book, but I think you can just like download it from his website or something.
I'll have to check it out.
It is very good. Matcha loves that book. Like, I gave it to her when we were doing the AME, and she was like, "What is this book? This is amazing!" And then she gave it to Jack, like all the interns, like they have been relating to history of tea, or they have interest. We have given them to them, and they are all like, "This book is so good. It's an incredible one."
I'll have to look it up.
Yes, you should. It's very good.
Thank you. Okay, well, there's some super nice recommendations. There are two more questions.
Yes.
What are some problems you see in the tea industry right now? And if you could change one thing, what would it be?
Problems. It's not an easy one, but I think farmers should be less scared about charging more for their life work than they are now, which in a market like the one that we work is very difficult. But they shouldn't be afraid of like pushing past that, because otherwise it's just a race to the bottom. And they are like the weakest link in the chain, probably. So they are in a very tricky situation, but they should be able to find a way as a farmers, not through cooperatives or anything like that, but as a whole, like even if you're a tea farmer or like whatever, charge more for your life work, not for the product that you make, but just your life effort, I think.
That's good. Farmers should charge more.
If I could change something, I would change the mentality of people thinking, or like, tea is a cheap thing. Why are you charging me so much for a cup of tea? That should be eradicated from people's brains, because tea is a commodity, but is actually a luxury product, in my opinion. And people should be willing to pay true cost of that. Like coffee the same, wine is the same, like even your tomatoes from your country, you should just pay more for it. And that's like in an ideal economical situation what should happen. But yeah, if we start to change the people mentality on like, oh, tea is so cheap, why should I pay you 3 times the amount I can get into the supermarket? Well, there's people behind it. It's not a thing that just pops into the shelves of supermarkets like this.
Magic.
You know, it's like yeah, these things come from a place, and they are grown by people, and they also have kids and husbands and wives and stuff to take care of. So,
and it's not about the specific creation of that product necessarily in that harvest moment. It's the years of expertise that farmers gained by producing that or looking after that field, and all culminating in a product of creating that product at right that moment. So you're not necessarily paying somebody for that exact product, but also their years of knowledge that they've gained. It's like
investment as well. Like if you're a farmer and you have to wait 5 years of your life to be able to harvest for the first time, like how are you surviving for 5 years, right? It's like
it's very true. It's very true. It's the same way that, you know, when people that want to hire a plumber or an electrician, the ones that have more experience will be paid more, even if they do the job much quicker. But it's because they have had that experience. You pay more for them. Why don't we do that for farmers?
Yeah,
good point. Okay, this is the last question. I wanted to brew our final tea, just so you can have a bit of tea for your last question as well.
Of course.
So this is wakocha. If you could have a massive billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, and it gets the message, whatever is on the board, this message gets to millions, billions of people, what would it say and why? It can be a couple of words, it can be a paragraph, it's up to you. It can be someone else's quote, it doesn't have to be something you make up.
I mean, there is two. They relate to the same thing, but there is like a lot of swear words mixed into it.
Okay.
One is one that I saw on a graffiti in the metro train in Barcelona once. It was a graffiti of a angel cartoon that was crying on a corner, and there is like a devil with like a stick poking to it. And the devil is saying, like, believe in yourself, you little piece of shit. Which I found like very funny. Especially like the text on its own would be like quite aggressive, but I think like having like this cute cartoon angel crying like on a corner and the devil like with a very angry face like poking him, saying that was like a very good like way of like, okay, that's a very nice way to put it. Just believe in yourself. Just do it in a way. The other one would be just like, just be kind. Just be nice to everyone and understanding maybe, but just be kind. FFS. But yeah, kind of.
Just be kind.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Well, that's everything.
Yay.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add, or is there anything I'd like to say?
No, I think I've blabbed enough for today.
Okay. No problem. Well, it's been a pleasure. It's been super interesting.
Nice. Thank you so much.
And before we started this, I said to you that I have done a few of these already, and they're always really special because when do you sit down with somebody one-on-one and like really think about the things you're saying to them and ask them some different questions and have like a line of questions you want to ask them. Like it doesn't happen much. So thank you for being willing to go through a bunch of unknown questions. You have no idea what these questions were beforehand. So I really appreciate
super nice.
It's fun.
It's very nice to be able to speak about this because it is not something you're just going to say like, do you want to sit down and think about this right now? Like,
right.
It just provides a very nice space. So I'm super grateful about that.
No, I'm very thankful for you spending your Sunday doing this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Pau.
Thank you, George. Thank you so much.